It doesn't have to be this way. So a plea to all the would-be terrorists that are out there. Hey, girl. Down on your luck?
We were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything.
On a night that started like any other episode of The Daily Show, Stewart leaned into the camera with his signature smirk and dropped a line so sharp it detonated across the internet instantly. Meghan Markle, he said, pausing just long enough for the crowd to hold their breath, is basically a mini Bridget Macron, great at slapping her man into place. The studio erupted, and online, the reaction exploded even louder. Here's why that moment matters. Meghan Markle has spent years meticulously shaping an image of resilience, empowerment, and modern royalty. She's positioned herself as the survivor of palace cruelty, the progressive voice challenging outdated institutions, and the woman turning her platform into purpose. But Stewart, the darling of American progressive satire, cut through all of it with one joke, and it landed not as cruel gossip, but as cultural commentary that hit hard. Within minutes, fan-made memes were flooding Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram.
My name is Jon Stewart. I got a little picture there going for you. What's happening? We got a show for you tonight. My God!
One stitched Meghan next to Bridget Macron with the caption, "Boss babes" or "Bossy babes." Another placed Prince Harry awkwardly trying to hold her hand in the same viral pose. A moment the European press had long painted as awkward or controlling. Here's the pattern that hit hardest. For the first time, the laughter wasn't coming from Meghan's critics. It came from the very audience her brand depends on. Progressives, feminists, and media-savvy fans who had championed her as a symbol of modern resistance suddenly found the joke hilarious. Her defenders might frame mockery as misogyny or racism, but Stewart's punchline was different. He wasn't attacking her identity, he was challenging her authenticity. By linking her to Bridget Macron, long seen as controlling and cold in European media, Stewart implied that Meghan's narrative of empowerment may have tipped into dominance. And that's where the scandal jumped from tabloid fodder to mainstream debate. Reports say Meghan's team scrambled immediately. Anonymous insiders told entertainment outlets she viewed the segment as sexist, outdated, and deeply unfair. But in PR terms, that fury backfired. The rule of comedy is simple. The moment you take yourself too seriously, you lose. Meghan had already lost. The audience wasn't gasping in shock. They were laughing in recognition, as if he had spoken what many had quietly suspected for months. This moment is bigger than a single joke. It cracked open the foundation of Meghan's public story, the image of the wronged outsider reclaiming power. Stewart reframed it as something else, a story of control, dominance, and performance.
Positive or negative, it just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship. On us.
Once a narrative slips from iconic to ironic, history shows it rarely flips back. The laughter inside the studio was only the beginning. Within hours, clips of Stewart's joke were everywhere, some stitched into TikToks, subtitled on Instagram Reels, and clipped into Twitter threads. What made this different? Instead of conservative voices mocking her, it was her own audience running wild. Fans who once called her brave and inspirational were now captioning memes. From Duchess to dictator, or not empowerment, just management. And that shift is crucial in media cycles. Outrage fades, criticism gets buried, but ridicule, it spreads like wildfire. One well-placed joke repeats endlessly. One viral edit, like Stewart's punchline overlaid on clips of Meghan's Netflix documentary, cutting between her soft monologues, and Bridget Macron brushing off her husband's hand, can change the conversation entirely. The result was a narrative no publicist could spin away. Meghan as the controlling partner, Harry as the sidelined figure. Suddenly, the story writing itself, and industry insiders took notice immediately. Commentators speculated that Stewart's joke hit a nerve because Meghan's recent podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, had already sparked whispers of disappointment, framed as a celebration of women in business. But instead of inspiring, it landed like an infomercial full of generic empowerment quotes. Critics online called it glossy but hollow, and Stewart's punchline crystallized that growing sense perfectly.
Do you watch the royal shows on TV, like The Crown or Bridgerton or any of them?
I watch Bridgerton.
Yeah?
Yeah, Bridgerton's a great show.
So
That's a period piece also, and I love Shonda Rhimes shows.
Meghan's defenders couldn't dismiss it easily as a sexist attack. Even progressive outlets, The ones that once ran glowing profiles quietly admitted Stewart had a point. They didn't make headlines about it, and they didn't defend her either. That silence spoke volumes, and Meghan felt it immediately. Meanwhile, fan reactions snowballed into full-blown cultural parody. TikTok creators reenacted the handbag joke, with boyfriends trailing behind girlfriends at charity galas. Twitter threads joked Harry had gone from spare air to spare handbag, and even celebrity accounts joined in. One A-list actor tweeted, "Meghan makes Bridget look chill," racking up thousands of likes. These weren't political pundits or royal commentators, they were her peers, laughing behind closed doors. Reports claim Meghan's team began drafting statements, debating whether to label Stewart's joke sexist or misguided. But every option risked amplifying the clip further. Ironically, the harder they tried to control the narrative, the faster it spread. Fans weren't just laughing at the joke anymore, they were laughing at her reaction. This is when celebrity scandals mutate. A single punchline evolves into a meme economy feeding on itself, shrinking the target with every share. Meghan, once untouchable royalty, was suddenly reduced to viral shorthand. What made Stewart's jab so dangerous wasn't just the laughter in the studio, it was the silence in boardrooms.
Girlfriend left you, job's a dead end. Spending a lot of time watching whatever YouTube autoplay is showing you. And now you've got some ideas. How about you don't everybody? Just do what everybody else does in that situation. Get a podcast.
Reports suggested executives who once lined up for Sussex deals were hesitating. One streaming insider told journalists Meghan's aura of guaranteed relevance had faded, and Stewart's joke only highlighted what corporate circles had already whispered. Her brand wasn't landing. The evidence piled up quickly. Netflix quietly axed Pearl, the animated series she had announced with fanfare. Spotify ended its multi-million-dollar partnership early. Even Confessions of a Female Founder, meant to reset her trajectory, was quietly treated as a flop. Industry analysts speculated Stewart, a veteran satirist, recognized an easy target. Meghan's empire had already been showing cracks long before his punchline went viral, and Harry wasn't immune. Stewart's joke about him as the unemployed immigrant carrying his wife's handbag struck deep, echoing fears that the once rebel prince had become a background character in Meghan's story. Reports suggested Hollywood producers were cooling on him too, describing him as overshadowed. In an industry obsessed with optics, that perception is brutal. Fans online connected the dots, creating threads comparing Meghan and Harry's trajectory to other celebrity power couples, the ones who burned bright, then fizzled when the public sensed imbalance.
See this institutional gaslighting.
I wasn't being thrown to the wolves, I was being fed to the wolves. You would just see it play out. Like a story about someone in the family would pop up for a minute, and they go, I gotta make that go away. But there's real estate. On a website homepage, there is real estate there. I went, oh my God.
Some fans pointed to Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, others to Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. The common thread? In each story, the moment the man seemed sidelined, the narrative flipped. Stewart's joke didn't invent the idea, it just surfaced it, pulling a cultural truth into the spotlight. Commentators immediately tied the fallout to Meghan's well-known obsession with control. Analysts speculated her refusal to show unpolished moments was backfiring. Every successful brand needs rough edges, one media critic noted. But Meghan had been sanding hers down for years, and Stewart just exposed how artificial that polished image really looks. That critique stung harder than any tabloid attack because it came from the very cultural camp that had once championed her. Meanwhile, financial observers noticed a ripple effect. Sussex-branded ventures started looking risky overnight. One entertainment finance blog reported that investors saw the Stewart incident as a cultural signal. If the joke sticks, the brand slips. In other words, laughter had instantly become liability. Here's the real revelation hiding under all the noise. Jon Stewart didn't create Meghan's downfall. He accelerated it. His comedy worked because it tapped into truths already circulating in fan communities, boardrooms, and progressive media circles. Once satire validates suspicion, a celebrity's carefully crafted narrative rarely survives intact. And if the internet was laughing, Meghan wasn't. Insider reports painted a picture of fury behind closed doors. One described her as humiliated and blindsided, allegedly seeing Stewart's words as a betrayal by a cultural ally. Being mocked by Piers Morgan or conservative tabloids was expected, Stewart hitting her audience's own demographic cut differently. Behind the gates of Montecito, her team scrambled, debating whether to label the joke sexist, outdated, or even xenophobic.
On so many good songs, and I've become that mom where I'm like sitting around with friends and I start singing like, Tyrannosaurus, that's the chorus, Tyrannosaurus. I was like, what am I singing? Oh my gosh, I'm singing Storybook. I'm singing Storybooks. I am not singing Beyonce in that.
But every possible angle risked amplifying the clip further. Fans online speculated that her silence in the days following was deliberate, a calculated attempt to wait out the meme cycle. Yet every hour without comment only let the joke spread faster. Stewart didn't just own the narrative for one night, he owned it for weeks. And then there was Harry. The infamous handbag punchline struck because it visualized something audiences were already noticing. The prince who once promised to shield his wife from palace pressures now seemed to lack his own platform. Public appearances reinforced this image. At charity events, Meghan delivered speeches while Harry stood behind, nodding politely. Critics didn't need to stretch their imagination. Stewart crystallized the perception in a single image, and fans replayed it endlessly. Hollywood began retreating behind the scenes. One media commentator quietly said executives were concerned about audience fatigue. When your brand is mocked more than celebrated, investment turns into risk. Meghan's upcoming projects, including new content and partnerships, suddenly look shaky. Analysts speculated that Stewart's joke might have been the tipping point for studios reconsidering attaching their reputations to her. Meanwhile, ordinary fans who once defended her fiercely were cooling off. Online discussions shifted in tone. Instead of rallying around Meghan, users compared her to past celebrities who over-controlled their brands until the public rebelled. It was giving Madonna in the late 90s. One fan wrote, "She's not Diana, 2.0, while another chimed in, "From Duchess to dictator, the arc is real." Here's where things started to unravel even further.
Harry and Meghan are leaving the palace to become financially independent. And you see, this is what happens when you bring the first black woman into the royal family. Yeah. She looked at Harry and she's like, "You need to get a job. You need a job. You a grown man. You can't still be living in your mama's house, Harry."
The tension wasn't just online, it was creeping into Meghan's business ventures and public image. A single joke had become a mirror reflecting cracks in her polished persona, and suddenly every move she made was being scrutinized under a microscope. Analysts and commentators began connecting dots. Stewart's punchline wasn't just funny, it crystallized a narrative that had been quietly forming for months. Meghan as the controlling figure, Harry as the background player, and a brand that might be more curated than authentic. That perception was spreading faster than any press release could contain. Industry insiders noted the stakes were higher than most realized. Deals that had once seemed guaranteed suddenly looked risky. One executive reportedly told colleagues that if the meme stuck, Meghan's empire could wobble, and Stewart's joke had the power to make it stick. Even progressive media, which once lionized her, weren't rushing to defend her. Silence, as always, can be louder than criticism. Fans online weren't holding back. TikToks reenacting the handbag moment went viral. Instagram Reels stitched clips from her Netflix documentary with Stewart's punchline, and Twitter threads compared Meghan and Harry's dynamic to celebrity couples who fizzled when imbalance was perceived. One popular meme even dubbed her the Duchess of Control, driving thousands of shares. Behind the scenes, Meghan's team was scrambling to contain the fallout. Options ranged from labeling the joke sexist, outdated, or tone-deaf, but every statement risked amplifying the clip further. Reports suggested her silence might have been a calculated strategy to wait out the viral storm, yet every hour without comment only allowed the joke to grow stronger.
But this is the new show that Netflix is promoting with the American actress who became a duchess, who tried to destroy the royal family, which then booted them out.
And then there was the Harry angle. Stewart's handbag punchline tapped into a deeper observation. Harry, once the rebel prince, now seemed overshadowed, a supporting player in Meghan's narrative. Public appearances reinforced this perception. At galas and charity events, Meghan delivered the speeches, led the conversations, while Harry followed behind, polite but secondary. Hollywood and industry insiders took notice. Executives began hesitating on new deals, wary that audience fatigue and viral ridicule could make her brand a liability. Analysts suggested Stewart's joke was the tipping point that made studios question whether associating with her was worth the risk. Even fans who had once fiercely defended Meghan were starting to turn. Online discussions shifted from admiration to critique. Instead of cheering, people were now debating her authenticity, comparing her trajectory to celebrities who overcontrolled their image until the public finally pushed back. Memes like "not empowerment, just management," and "from duchess to dictator" spread across platforms, reshaping her image in real time. The bigger picture became clear. One joke had turned into a cultural moment, one that questioned control, authenticity, and influence. Meghan's narrative, carefully built over years, was suddenly being examined, mocked, and reframed, and the public was watching every move. She's Kris Jenner 0.5. And these weren't haters. They were former admirers, exhausted by the endless performance. For Meghan, the danger wasn't Stewart's words alone. It was what those words unleashed. Comedy works when it speaks truth people already suspect, and when that truth is repeated enough, it becomes the story itself. Meghan Markle wasn't just fighting bad press anymore. She was fighting irrelevance, the quiet, career-killing force of celebrity life. The silence around her spoke louder than any headline.
Let's go.
I've always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it.
Hollywood, once eager to frame her as the fresh face of modern royalty, had gone quiet. Reports suggested executives were reevaluating projects, sponsors were watching metrics with hesitation, and even progressive outlets that once celebrated her had shifted to covering her with neutrality instead of admiration. The oxygen that had kept her brand alive. Constant attention was thinning. And here's the cruel irony. Meghan was once untouchable because her story was bigger than her. She was the actress who dared to challenge an institution older than democracy itself. She was the woman who told Oprah in front of millions that the palace tried to silence her. She was a mother redefining what a royal family could look like. Now, stripped of mystique and faced with dwindling public interest, she looks less like a movement and more like another celebrity scrambling to hold relevance in a brutal media cycle. For Harry, the fallout has been even sharper. Stewart's handbag joke distilled a brutal truth. The once rebellious prince now appears as a sidekick in his own story. Fans online compared him to Ken at the Barbie premiere or the ultimate +1. Memes showed him edited into the background of Meghan's Netflix interviews, clutching purses or staring blankly while she commanded the frame. It wasn't hatred, it was worse. Ridicule erases sympathy faster than scandal ever could. Cultural commentators quickly drew comparisons to past celebrity declines. The shift from iconic to ironic is nearly impossible to reverse. Once laughter replaces admiration, credibility collapses, and Meghan's carefully curated brand of empowerment, elegance, and compassion now looks staged. Every new project, every podcast, every public appearance risks being dismissed as another PR stunt. And in today's media landscape, that perception is lethal. The broader industry lesson is crystal clear. When satire validates suspicion, celebrity branding collapses. Stewart didn't destroy Meghan Markle. He simply lit a match on a pile of dry kindling already stacked by awkward interviews, over-controlled messaging, and failed deals. The fire spread because the audience was ready. And once the laughter started, it didn't stop. Here's the ultimate irony. Meghan's brand was built on controlling the narrative. But comedy doesn't play by those rules. It flips control into chaos, takes a polished story, and exposes every crack. That's why this scandal is more than just a punchline. It's a cultural turning point. Meghan and Harry aren't just being debated anymore, they're being memed. In a world obsessed with attention, being laughed at is better than being ignored, but only slightly. So the real question is, can Meghan Markle rewrite her story one more time, or has Jon Stewart's punchline already written the ending? If you've got thoughts on this, drop them in the comments. Let's hear what you think. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives like this. Don't forget to smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to see it.